Hey everybody, welcome to week 7 of distance learning. We're almost there. Let's see. Today is the 2nd of May. We have, after this, only 2 more weeks. So week 7, 8, 9. Anyways, so not much to update you guys really on this week. I'm going to save my show us your vault segment to the end because I did a virtual gender reveal for you guys. We filmed that last night. Nothing super fancy, but there was cake involved and it was yummy. So I'll wait to the end for that. But today I've got my Sonic drink. I'm drinking a diet strawberry limeade. Very good. And yeah, so that's about it. If you have any missing work from any previous weeks, just get it turned in. So you don't have anything missing because we don't want any I's for any weeks. We want all PR proficient, right? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This week, share my screen with you guys. We're going to be doing credit and debit module. So this will be the module that we're working on. Again, you need to get a 70 on the module in order to get credit for the module. You're more than welcome to take notes during the module so that you can utilize those notes on the quiz at the end. You can retake the quiz as many times as you need to get to a 70. Now, for the ed puzzle, you need to get a 70 as well, but if you don't get a 70, then I have to reset that for you. So just let me know that you need to retake that. So yeah, so this is the module, credit and debit. So that's what we're going to be talking about. The module will be about credit, and I'm sorry, that says debt. Definitely thought it said debit. I had a whole little thing. Anyways, okay, so that's the module, credit and debt, excuse me, that we will be discussing. So before I get into credit, let's talk about the difference, because your parents, you might even have a couple cards sitting in your wallet. I brought my 2 cards. I've got this card here. Maybe this is why I thought debit. So this is my debit card. This card is tied to my Bank of America checking account. It has the MasterCard logo here. So that means that I can use this card anywhere they accept MasterCard. And when I swipe this card or I utilize this card online, it's going to take the funds directly out of my checking account. It's totally different than a credit card, which we'll talk about. So this is a debit card, like I said. It's usually tied to a checking account. And this is what you just swipe or type online and it'll take it straight out of your checking account. Or this is also the card that you could use at the ATM, right, to get cash right away. This is a debit card. So tied to a bank account and takes the funds pretty much automatically. This took place of writing checks. Y'all are probably too young, but you know, back in the day when we used to write checks. Anywho, but yeah, so no, we don't have to write checks anymore. We can just swipe our card and it's the exact same thing as writing a check. But this is a debit card, totally different than a credit card. This is my credit card. We have a rewards card through Southwest, even though I hate flying Southwest. Oh, I freaking hate it. But anyways, it's cheap. So anyways, but this is our credit card, totally different, right? This is not tied to a bank account. When we use this online or when we swipe it at stores, it's basically a Chase. I think is I don't know if you can't see that it's a Chase card, but in the back you can, yeah. So Chase basically keeps a tally of how much we've charged on the card. And at the end of the month, they send us a bill, and then it's up to us to either pay that bill off completely, pay a little bit of it, you know. So that's the difference between this card, which takes it directly out of your checking account right away. You have to have the money in your checking account for this to work, right? Otherwise, it'll get declined. Or if you use this, this doesn't take money out of your checking account right away. The company will keep tally of how much you've charged, and then they send you a bill at the end of the month, and then you have to pay the bill. And interest is charged on this. So this is not free money. This is your money. You've earned it. You've put it in your checking account. No interest is charged when you use this card. But when you use this card, they charge you interest on the balance at the end of the month. So that's what we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking more about this particularly. So let's get started. All right. So let's talk about what credit is. Okay. Credit basically gives you the opportunity to earn or to get something before you actually have to pay for it. So when I swipe this card, I'm getting whatever it is. Like, we buy groceries with that card. So technically I've gotten the groceries. I have them in my refrigerator and on my countertop, but we haven't technically paid for them yet until the end of the month. So I'm able to obtain goods or services before I actually pay for them. Credit is also your reputation for your financial responsibility. So again, we talked about this, I think maybe last week. It's your credit, and we'll talk about credit score in a couple of slides, is like your GPA. It follows you throughout your entire life, and it basically shows banks, creditors, employers, how responsible are you financially. So it's really important not to abuse credit, because credit is also your reputation in regards to your finances. This card, when I swipe it, it gives us time to repay for those goods and services. So it's I don't have to pay for it until the end of the month or whenever I can pay it. Ideally, you don't want to skip a payment, but it does give you a little bit of time to repay that debt. Credit is a huge source of revenue for banks. That's how banks make money. That's how Chase makes their money. The interest that they charge for me to use this card, that's how Chase, that's one stream of revenue they have. But again, we're going to talk about two different types of credit. Loans is a big one. So that's another way. Through the interest that they charge you on loans is also a form of revenue. But here's the misconception. A lot of people, Americans, thinks it's just extra money. Like, it's not more money. It's tomorrow's money. Or it could be like maybe your next month's car payment because you didn't budget well. And like I gave you guys the example in the budgeting unit, you didn't budget well, you have nothing in savings, your 2 tires blew out and you need to replace those 2 tires. Well, where's that money going to come from? You can either take it, if you don't have anything in savings, you don't have enough cover in your checking account because you're not budgeting, then you have to put it on a credit card. And that money you'll have to eventually pay back. It's not free. You have to pay that back. So where is the money to pay it back going? You're basically just giving yourself time to pay it back. But it's not like you're going to get extra income. You're going to get the same income. So credit's really dangerous because of that misconception that a lot of people just think that it's more money when it really isn't. You're still making the same. You're just buying yourself a little bit of time to pay it back, but you're going to eventually have to pay it back. And you've got to figure out how to pay it back. And that's why we have so many Americans in credit card debt, because they're not good budgeters. They don't plan well. And then they charge it to a credit card with absolutely no idea how they're going to pay that back. So, okay, let's look at the types of credit. So we talked a lot about loans in the last unit. So we talked about mortgages, right? When we buy a house, that's a type of loan. Vehicle loan. So when you go buy your first vehicle, you'll probably have to borrow money from the bank, unless you're just a really good saver and you start saving super early. Like you could buy a used car, an older vehicle in cash. That's great if you're able to do that. Congratulations. But most of us, when we buy cars, we have to get a car loan. We have to borrow that money from the bank because we don't have that amount of money sitting in our bank accounts. So Student loans, which can be accessed through different institutions when you guys go off to college. A lot of students don't realize how long it's actually going to take for them to pay off student loans, especially if you're planning on becoming a doctor or a lawyer. You can use student loans to pay for nursing school or PA school, or just getting your master's degree. So a lot of people will utilize student loans to help pay for their education because college is expensive. And then there's things called personal loans as well. The EverFi module might talk about secured and unsecured loans. I'm not going to get too much into detail about that, but personal loans could be, personally, for example, when I was way before I got married, I wanted to get LASIK eye surgery, and it was really expensive, and I have really bad vision, as you can tell. It did not last for very long because I'm back in glasses, but to pay for that, I took out a personal loan in order to pay for that. So personal loans can really be for anything. That's why they're called personal, because it can be for personal reasons. So loans, unlike credit cards, which we'll talk about next, the payment is the same every month. So remember last week you guys did, or you should have, assignment 3 was for you guys to kind of use that calculator and see how much a car payment would be. That is the same payment you pay every single month until the loan is paid off. So eventually that loan will get dwindled down till you have a zero balance, and then you've paid off your loan, and then you're done with that loan. So you won't owe the bank any more money. So the amount that you'll pay every month is based on the principal. That's a fancy term, or a bank term, a finance term. That's the amount of money that you borrowed. So if you're purchasing a vehicle and and the vehicle costs $25,000, that's the principal, $25,000. That's the amount that you're going to have to borrow from the bank in order to purchase the car. So the principal would be $25,000. Obviously, your interest rate, which will be applied every single month to your payment, because remember, you can't borrow money from the bank for free, unfortunately. So your interest rate will also factor into your payment. And then how long you want the loan to be for. Remember, we talked about this last week. Used car loans are usually 60 months. Mortgages are 15 to 30 years. So the longer the term, the smaller the payment will be. The shorter the term, the bigger the payment will be, right? So all of that will get factored into your payment. So when I was going to buy my first car, I knew going into it that I could only afford like a $350 car payment every month. I had done my budget and I figured out like, okay, I can afford this much. So when I went to the car dealership, I told them like, this is the kind of car that I'm looking for, but I don't really care how much the car costs. I know that I can only afford $350 a month. So they were able to show me cars in a price range that they knew. And I knew what my interest rate would be around because I checked my credit prior to, and I knew I had really good credit. And so, I knew all those things. I was a very wise consumer prior to going and buying my first car. So that's how, I kind of bought my first car. A lot of people think like, oh, I want a $30,000 truck, but like they don't have no real clue what the monthly payment would be for that. So it's better to go in kind of knowing what you can afford monthly, because that's really what's going to affect your budget versus just knowing you want a $30,000 truck or whatever the cost of the car is. So I wanted to kind of do another example with you guys. So I'm not going to plug any numbers because I think these numbers are fine. But so this was a car loan calculator, different than the one that you guys used. So $25,000, interest rate is 3.11% for 60 months, right? 5 years, that's average. And so your monthly payments would be about $450. So if I had done that ahead of time, I'd been like, I either need to finance this for longer. So look, if we adjust this to, let's see if we wanted to finance it for 7 years instead of 5. So that's 84 months. Watch, when I change it to 84, that drops it down to 332. So I would have been like, hey, I can afford that. I'd have to finance it for 7 years. I'd have to get a loan for 7 years instead of 5. But that's how I would be able to afford this particular car if this interest rate could not be adjusted. Now I want to point out this number right here. This is why I like this calculator. So this is the principal, right? This is the cost of the car, $25,000, the sticker price on the vehicle. After 84 months, after 7 years, this is how much I will have actually paid for the car. $25,000 is just your starting point. Because of interest makes everything more expensive. So you tack on the amount of interest in that car. I actually ended up spending $27,852 for the car. Not really 25, because remember, borrowing money from the bank is not free. So they just made about, can't do the math that fast, so like $2,000-ish off of that one car loan because of the interest. So that's what we call a finance charge. So you've got your principal, your interest, your loan term, and then ultimately your finance charge. At the end of the loan, at the end of the 84 months, this is how much that car I will have paid for that car. This number is not how much the car is worth. This is how much I actually ended up paying for the car because of this 3.11% in interest rate. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's loans. Let's look at credit cards. Credit cards, you can get, anywhere. As soon as you guys turn 18, guaranteed, if you haven't already, they're going to start inundating you in the mail with credit card applications, because you're now legally able to get a credit card in your name by yourself. But you can get a credit card through your bank. Most banks will have some kind of credit card, multiple ones to choose from. There are reward cards, like my husband and I, we have the Southwest rewards card. So whenever we use it, we earn airline miles. There's all kinds of different rewards cards other than just travel. There's like Disney has some, Target has, there's just reward cards everywhere. You can get a gas card, like a credit card just for gas, that you can use at like Valero or Shell. And it's, it may not have this Visa logo on it, so you can't use it anywhere except for that particular gas station. So that's an option. And then, of course, every retail store under the sun has a credit card that you can apply for. Best Buy, Target, Walmart, Costco. Every retail store, big box retail, Home Depot, Lowe's, they all have their own credit cards. And they'll usually have all of these credit cards will have some kind of introductory offer that's like 0% interest for this many months. But then, of course, the interest rate shoots up to like 19% after the introductory offer is over. But those are just different tactics that credit card companies will use to kind of suck you in and be like, ooh, that sounds like a really good deal. 0% for 2 years. Wow. And you're charging out the wazoo. And then, after the 2 years, that introductory offer is over, or however long it is. Every credit card is going to have some kind of different introductory offer to entice you with. So just be very careful with those introductory offers, because they seem like a great, deal, but after they're done, the credit card interest rates shoot way, way high. So there's a lot that I could go over with you guys about credit cards. I'm just not going to. So we just don't have the time. I wish we were doing this in person, because I spend so much more time on credit cards, because I just want y'all to be educated, because credit cards are so dangerous, but there's, we need them. Our economy kind of relies on them. You can't rent a car without a credit card. You can't get your first apartment without an established credit score. And the easiest way to establish a credit score is through a credit card. So there's it's just very challenging. You just got to be very, very careful with credit cards, because they can be very dangerous if you're not careful. Okay, so the difference between a credit card and a loan is the payment is different every month. Depends on what you purchase, right? So remember, the payment over here, my car payment, my mortgage payment is the same every single month. It does not fluctuate, because I've worked out all these terms ahead of time, okay? When I charge, I could charge $200 to this credit card. Okay, that's going to be my balance for the month. Well, maybe the next month we had some medical bills, and we had to take our dog to the vet, and I don't know, we went on a big shopping or on a vacation. Our credit card bill might be higher that month. So your credit card bills are going to be different every single month depending on what you charge. So that's a big difference between those two. The amount that you pay every month on your credit card depend on what the balance is on the card, like I said. So how much did you charge throughout the month? What the interest rate is, okay? The average interest rate on a credit card is 19%. That's a lot, okay? You can do the math. And then how much you actually pay on the balance. So over here on this loan side, I have to make that car, well, I don't anymore, right? Because I told you I paid off my car loan, but my car payment was like $350. I paid more. I paid $400 a month just to pay it off sooner. But if I didn't make that car payment for so many months in a row, they'd come repossess my car. Like, no good. If you don't pay off the balance here, they charge you late fees. But they could also, like, you could go into bank. I mean, there's a lot of problems that could happen if you don't pay off your credit card bill. Now, the difference is you don't have to pay off the whole balance on a credit card. This is where they get you. Most credit card companies will make you pay a minimum balance. The minimum balance for most credit cards is going to be 1% of the balance plus the interest that was charged for that month. That is the minimum that you have to pay in order to keep in good standing with your credit card. You can keep charging, and every single month, all you have to pay back is 1% of the balance and the interest that was charged that month. That's it. That's why people get in so much trouble, because they're not paying off the full balance. They're just paying off a tiny sliver, and it takes them months, years even, to pay off that balance if they're only making the minimum payment. So if you are going to get a credit card, you trust yourself, you think you're going to be disciplined enough, then you need to be disciplined enough to pay off the balance every single month. So my husband and I, we actually never use our debit card. We only use our credit card. Okay. But we are very responsible, and we pay off the balance in full every single month. We don't make the minimum payment, we pay the entire balance. So again, this is something I've learned to do as a 37-year-old person. I was not that disciplined when I was 18, 21, 25 years old. So I didn't have credit cards back then because I knew that I wasn't responsible enough with my money. So, you know, thankfully I knew that about myself, so I steered clear of credit cards. But now as an adult and I'm married, I have a partner who's also just as equally as responsible as me. We pay that off every single month. So also your payment might be based on your credit limit. So credit cards come with a limit. I can't just like charge thousands and dollars, till the cows come home on my credit card. There's a limit. The credit card companies, when you apply for a credit card, they'll tell you what your limit is, and you can't go above that limit. And once you reach that limit, then you have to pay off the balance to free up some more of your credit limit, which is never a good idea to charge up to the limit. Just don't do it. Just because they tell you that that's how much you can charge doesn't mean that you should. That's a big life lesson. Okay, so this link y'all are going to actually see on assignment 3 because you're going to actually do this, but I wanted to show this to you now so you could see how much it would cost to buy something on a credit card. You're going to be able to pick like 4 different items that you would purchase on a credit card. Now, I will say this. Things that you would never purchase on a credit card. You cannot purchase a car on a credit card. It's not done. You would never go to the car lot, buy a car, and hand them your credit card. They'd look at you and laugh. You get car loans or you pay in cash, okay? You do not buy vehicles on credit cards, boats, motorcycles, trucks, cars. You just don't do it, okay? I'm not saying that just because I don't want you to do that. I'm saying you just don't do that in the world. Like, that doesn't exist. You also don't buy dwellings to live in on a credit card. If you wanted to buy a house or a condo or a vacation home and you tried to hand them your credit card, again, they would laugh at you because they'd say, you need to go to the bank and get a mortgage loan. You don't buy home dwellings on a credit card. So for the assignment that you guys are going to do in assignment 3, right now, out of your head, you cannot purchase cars or home dwellings on a credit card. Not done. So, okay, let's say let's let's do something small first, right? You go out with your friends to Whataburger and you're starving, and you spend, you get the triple meat, triple cheese, Wada sized, and you get, I don't know, a large milkshake. I have no idea how much it would cost, but let's say it's going to cost $15. So we're going to type 15 because let's pretend like that's the only thing that you've charged on your credit card that month, okay? We're going to leave the interest rate at 18 because that's about average. And then again, remember I said, what is the minimum payment? How is minimum payments calculated? It's interest plus 1% of the balance. So it's this 18% plus whatever 1% of 15 is, okay? And we're just going to leave everything the same. You don't change anything else. You're going to press calculate. Now, I like this calculator for two reasons. One, because it tells you what your minimum payment would be. So the minimum payment stays $15. It didn't change. But it would take you 2 months to be rid of your debt. If you only made the minimum payment, did I do that right? Yeah. I don't know why it said, I guess because this is too low, it doesn't change. Sorry. Let's just take a look over here. If you only made the minimum payment on that balance, it would take you 2 months to pay off $15. Like, can you imagine if you weren't able to eat that triple meat, triple cheese until you paid off your credit card debt, what kind of mold and nastiness would be on that burger and fries 2 months later? Take you 2 months to pay that off. That's ridiculous, just for $15, and you'd pay 23 cents in interest. Not a huge charge in interest, but the fact that it would take you 2 months to pay off $15 because you didn't have $15 in your checking account and you had to put it on a credit card, yikes. Okay, let's do something larger, okay? Let's say I wanted to go on I wanted to go to Europe, and the flight was $2,500. Again, I'm not a very good, let's pretend I'm not a very good budgeter, and I want to go on this trip so bad. I mean, I have to go. My friends are going, everything, whatever. So I have to go. So $2,500 on my credit card. Again, interest rate, we're going to leave the same. Interest rate, the minimum payment is calculated the same. I'm going to press calculate just to make sure. So my minimum payment every single month would be $62.50. If I only made this minimum payment every month, it would take me 204 months to pay off this debt. Let's see. Okay, I had to get my calculator. 204 divided by 12. No, that's not right. 12 divided by 204? No. That's 17 years. Am I doing that right? All I know, that's a lot of time. 200, yeah, that's 17 years. What's 17 times 12? 17 times 12 is 204. It would take you 17 years. Let that sink in. 17 years later, after you went on this European trip, 17 years later, some of y'all are even 17. It would have taken you from the time that you were born until the time of your 17th birthday to pay off that debt, that $2,500 debt. And after the 204 months passed, so after the 17 years, actually, you wouldn't have actually spent $2,500. You would have spent $3,100 on that vacation, on just the plane, on just the plane ticket, because of interest. That's wild, you guys. That's really wild. So I'm hoping I'm kind of translating and getting across to you how dangerous credit cards can be, because a lot of people don't, they just pay the minimum payment because that's all they can afford. So, okay, moving on. All right, credit scores. How are credit scores calculated? It's really complicated. We'll talk about it in the next couple of slides, but this is a really good graphic to show you guys credit scores. So when you apply for a loan or you apply for a credit card, they're going to check your credit, and depending on where you fall in this range, that will dictate what your interest rate will be. And if you're applying for a credit card, it will dictate how much your credit limit will be. So if you have really good credit, they trust you more because they see that you're a very good and responsible person. So you're going to get really low interest rates and really high credit limits. Again, credit limits are not to be abused. Now, if you fall into this category down here, if you're falling into the poor, very bad, you're going to get denied. You won't be able to get loans. If someone does apply for a credit card who falls into this category, then you're going to get a really high interest rates on car loans and credit cards. Your credit limit will be very low. They're not going to let you charge too much on the credit card because you just don't seem very trustworthy if you're down in this range. It's just no bueno. So I circled the 750 because that's where you should be shooting, because it's really hard to be up in this 800, 850 category, but 750 is a good place that you'd want to be in. So, okay, so how do these work? So basically your credit score is made up of how do you pay your bills? Do you pay them on time? Do you pay them late? Are you consistently late? Have you missed a payment? Missing payments completely or paying payments late, whether it be a credit card or on a loan, not good, never good. If you pay them on time, that's great. And if you pay early or ahead or you pay more than what you owe, that's better for your credit score. Have you ever been sent to collections? Sending to collections is when you completely forget to pay and eventually they'll send you to collections. Also, how your credit score work, 30% of it is calculated to how much money do you actually owe. So they're going to take a look at how many loans do you have out, like how much, do you have a car loan? Do you have a mortgage? And then if you have credit cards, how many credit cards do you have? How many are at their limit? How many have a zero balance? And they'll start looking at do you pay your credit card payments on time, early, all that stuff. How long have you had a credit history? So my credit history is obviously a lot longer than y'all's. I turned 18 however many years ago. I'm 37 now. So as soon as you turn 18, we'll talk about that in a couple of slides, but the length of your credit history is 0 because you literally just turned 18. So that only counts for 15%. And then how many new credit applications do you have? So when you're, just be very careful when you're out shopping for a new car and you go to the car lot and they're like, hey, let me check your credit, see what kind of interest rate you're going to get. And no thanks. Every time someone checks your credit, that dings your credit a little bit. And so you don't want to do that. So always check your credit for free before you go out to make a big purchase like a car, so that you know what your credit score is and what interest rate you're probably going to get, so that you've checked it for free. It doesn't ding your credit, and because every time a lender or a retailer checks your credit, it dings it a little bit every single time. So it's never a good idea to allow them to do that unless it's absolutely necessary and for sure you're going to buy that car at that car lot or that particular item. Okay. So basically you have no credit score until you turn 18. When you turn 18, it's not like you automatically start in, in this excellent category. I wish that's how it worked, right? Like your GPA, when you enter high school, all of you guys entered in with a 4.0, and then it's your job to kind of keep it a 4.0. Some of y'all do a really good job of doing that. Some of y'all do not. But credit scores are completely different. You start out with basically 0, and then it's your job to kind of work it up into that 850, working it up that way. So once you have established credit, and this could be apply, and we'll talk about how you can do that in an easy way, in a safe way. Your first credit score is going to be in that really low range. Again, because you're new to your credit history is brand new, and you just don't have much to go on. No one has any way of figuring out if they can trust you financially. Lenders don't have any way of seeing that because you just don't have an established credit history. So yes, this range is in the lower range, and that's usually seen as bad. But for someone who's just entering into that market, into the credit market, creditors are going to obviously pay attention to that and see your age and understand why it's in that low category. So why does your credit score matter? Who even looks at it? Okay. Banks definitely will look at it. So if you're going to apply for a loan, if you're going to buy your first car, your first house, they're definitely going to look at your credit to see what kind of interest rate you would qualify for. So you want a high credit score so you get a good interest rate. Creditors will look at it. So credit card companies, if you go to apply for a credit card, then they're definitely going to look at your credit score, again, to depend on what interest rate you get. Student loan providers are definitely going to look at your credit. If you're getting a student loan through yourself, they're going to look at your credit. If you're applying for a student loan with your parents, then they'll more than likely look at your parents' credit. So it's also important that they have good credit so that you can get a really good interest rate on your student loans if you already know that that's how you're going to have to pay for college. Utility companies. Wow. So remember I talked to you guys about moving out and how expensive that is, and they are going to, make you pay a deposit to turn on your electricity and your water. They check your credit. If you have bad credit, they aren't going to want to provide you a service because they're not going to trust that you're going to pay your bills. So if you have bad credit, you won't be able to get electricity. Before that, you probably wouldn't even be able to get into an apartment because the apartment complex is going to check your credit first. And if you have bad credit, they're not going to want to let you, use one of their apartments because then they can't trust that you're going to pay your rent because you haven't paid your other bills because you don't have good credit. See, it's just all cyclical. Insurance companies. So we haven't covered insurance. That's another module. Landlords, like I said, so when you're going to rent your first apartment, they're going to check your credit. Ding, ding, ding. Employers. When you go to apply for some jobs, not every employer, but it is totally legal for an employer to do a credit check, especially if the job you're applying for has to do with money. Because it's insinuated that if you're responsible with your own money, then you're going to be responsible with company money. And if they don't think that you're responsible with your own money, then they can insinuate that you possibly won't be responsible with their money. It's just the truth of the world, you guys. So a bad credit score could prevent you from getting a job. That's how serious credit is, okay? And then collection agencies, government agencies, and any entity with a court order can check your credit or look at your credit. But definitely 1 through 7 are all different companies and entities that you will eventually run into your adult life. So establishing good credit now is really important. Being responsible now is really important. Okay, so you're like, all right, Ms. Wilkes, we get it. It's scary, but we can be responsible. So how can we do this responsibly? How can I do this, in a safe way? Great question. Okay, first thing, open a savings account and a checking account in your name, not your parents' name, when you're able to, okay? And manage them properly. When I say manage them properly, don't overdraft or have the balance be very low for long periods of time, okay? When you go to apply for loans, they're going to ask you for your bank statements. They're going to want to look at how have you been managing just your basic checking and savings accounts. If they see overdrafts consistently, then you're not managing your money well. So opening a savings and a checking account in your own name is an easy way, but again, managing them well is a very easy way to start your credit history when you turn 18 in a positive way, okay? Then there's some other things that you can take, or other steps you can take. First, if your parents are willing to and able to allow you to become an authorized user on one of their credit cards. I mean, my parents probably would have said no to me when I turned 18 and asked to be on their credit card, 'cause to be honest, they probably wouldn't have trusted me financially. So, but if your parents are willing to do that and you've gone to them and talked to them like, I know it's important that I establish credit history when as soon as you turn 18, then if they're willing to do that, by all means, let them allow them to do that, but you need to be responsible. One way is to purchase a vehicle with a cosigner. A cosigner is basically a parent or some kind of guardian who's basically saying like, hey, I'm vouching for this person. They obviously are very young. They don't have good credit yet because they just turned 18. So I'm going to co-sign with them on this vehicle. Or it could be on an apartment lease. And basically what happens is if you, the original person, what they call default on the loan, stop paying for the loan, they can technically go after your cosigner. So if your cosigner is your mom or your grandma or your dad, your uncle, they could go after your grandma or your uncle. So it's a very risky situation. So the cosigner would definitely have to be someone, you know, that you trust and that trusts you especially. But again, if you go into a conversation with your parents, like, hey, I'm trying to establish good credit now so I can be responsible. This is the only, you know, this is one way I can do this. Obtain a credit card with a cosigner. There's not a whole lot of credit cards out there that will allow you to have a cosigner, but if you're able to find one, go for it. But this is another one. My parents kind of got me started with a gas card. And so I was only allowed to charge my gas on it because, but I had to remember that, okay, I'm charging my gas money onto this credit card. I can't spend my gas money out of my checking account. I have to pay that I have to pay that credit card. So these are just a couple different ways that you can establish a credit history or start working up your credit. So again, some other steps that you can do: pay your bills on time. So when you do start to get loans and credit cards, make sure you're paying them on time. Never miss a payment. The late fees are gnarly, and as soon as you miss a payment, they can raise your interest rate like that. I mean, you're already starting at like an average of 18%. They can raise it into the 20s, into the 30s if you start missing payments. Always stay within your credit limit. Just because just because the credit card company says you can charge $2,500 doesn't mean you should. Just because you get approved for a car loan for $30,000 doesn't mean you have to buy a $30,000 car. If that monthly payment for that $30,000 car doesn't fall into your budget, then you don't need a $30,000 card. You need to find something that costs less. Just be responsible. Know how much you owe at all times. So keep track of that, especially when you get to be my age and we have mortgages, car payments, we have a credit card bill. Then keep your balances low. If you do get a credit card, try and charge small amounts. Don't do huge purchases to try and keep them low so that you are more than likely to pay off the whole balance at the end of the month. Stay within your budget. So if you want to put, a lot of you guys, I was so proud of y'all on Travis's budget. Some of y'all said credit card was not on Travis's budget, which if that is something that you plan on having in your budget, make sure you budget for your credit card purchases. Pay off your debt. Don't move it around, because a lot of people will do this. Credit card companies are really good at enticing like balance transfers. They'll say like, oh, 0% on balance transfers for a year. So they'll take, they'll have this credit card, they'll transfer this balance to another card just to avoid paying it. They're just basically moving the debt around. They're not like actually paying anything. Again, have money in savings for emergencies so that you're not having to pull this out and pay for, emergency situations. You already have money set aside for that. Don't overdraft on your bank accounts. Use your credit card accounts very lightly, like I said. Don't open accounts if you don't need them. Again, when you start to turn 18, it's going to be very enticing because they're going to offer you all these great deals and it's going to sound great, but really it's not. So in the long run, it's just better to save for whatever it is that you want instead of putting it on a credit card. And then just check your credit report too, guys. You can check them for free. Don't check it now. If you're not 18, you don't have one. If you're 18, it's always good to start checking it because you want to check for fraud and things like that for that reason. But once you start establishing credit cards and credit history, like loans and stuff, it's always good to check. And then just FYI, closing accounts, like if I were just to close this credit card, but I still had a balance on it, the balance doesn't go away. I still owe the money, even if I close the account or close the card. So closing it, getting it, you think that the closing it is going to help you. It doesn't take the debt away. It's still there. Okay, so that's it. Let's talk about what you're going to do for assignment 3. So basically, you're going to use this. I'm going to close this so you guys can see me open it. So you're going to navigate to that web page. It's going to open it up, the same one that I just had open. Okay, you're going to type in the price of your chosen item. So you're going to pick something that you want to purchase. I love luggage. Excuse me. I don't even know if I could find the price of something right now, but let's see if I can quickly. Okay, let's look at this guy right here. So actually what you're going to do first, and I didn't put this in the instructions, I'll edit that. You're going to actually paste the picture of the item. So wherever you find that item, if you find it on Amazon, if you find it whatever website, just right click on the picture, click copy, come over here and just paste it in. Again, you can resize it if you feel like it's too big. Doesn't really matter. So then I'm going to type what the price of the item is. I'm sorry. So $3,350. $3,350. Make sure it's a comma. Okay, this is where the instructions are going to ask you to use this website. Okay, I can close this now. Okay. So type in the price of the chosen item. So it was 3350. 3350. Okay. See what it says to do with the interest rate. Keep the interest rate at 18%. Keep how the minimum payment calculated is the same, and then keep all that the same. So basically, you're not changing this, this, or this. You're just going to leave everything the same, and then you're going to press calculate. So first thing that the table asks is, what is my minimum payment? If I were to purchase this on a credit card and that was the only thing I had on the credit card, at the end of the month when they sent me my bill, what would be my minimum payment if this was my balance? This is the only thing I purchased on the credit card that month. My minimum payment would be $83.75. Okay, how many months would it take you to pay off this suitcase if I only paid $83.75 every month? Ooh, let's take a look. 233 months. That is extremely wild. Let's see, how long, you don't have to do this for your assignment, but 233 divided by 12, that's 19 years in 4 months. Like, I can't, that's so long, 20 years to pay off 33. Guys, oh my God, I can't. Okay. And then total amount of interest paid in interest once paid off. So how much will I have actually spent? How much will I have actually spent on this suitcase? Because you know, we said, this is the price of the suitcase. Yes, if I had paid for it in cash, if I had it in my checking account, that's how much I would have paid, $33.50. But because I have interest, that's not actually how much. So it says, do not copy and paste from the website. The numbers will be too large. So you're just gonna have to remember what it is. 4448.24. 4448.24. Okay, so I just spent over the course of 19 years another, let's do the math, 4448.24 minus 3350, $1,098 just in interest, an extra $1,000 over 233 months for the suitcase. The suitcase isn't even worth that. It's worth $33.50. Y'all, that's why credit cards are wild. Okay, so just my thing, couple of caveats, do not copy and paste the numbers, because if you do, it'll paste like this. This number is really big. So if you were to copy it, don't do that. Okay, just type it. Another thing here, I put in yellow, I already talked about this. You cannot use any of the following items to purchase on your credit card: house, apartment, condo, townhouse, vacation home, not done, or any type of vehicle. Okay, so I should not see in these 4 Rest of this blue area, home dwellings or vehicles. If you do, they'll be counted wrong. And if you get below a 70, I'm going to shoot it back to you and you're going to have to redo it. So just pick something else. Okay, I don't care what it is as long as it's completely legal in the state of Texas at your age. Legal in the state of Texas at your age. Get my drift? Okay. That's it, you guys. Stay tuned for my gender reveal coming up next. Miss you guys. I really do. Oh, I always do that, y'all. And if it freaks you out, it doubly freaks me out because I was not expecting to see my face that big. All right. Again, stay tuned for gender reveal. Get your guesses ready, boy or girl, girl or boy. Okay, we thought it'd be about the time to share with y'all what will it be? It being the baby. All right, so inside this cake will be pink or blue. Maybe this way. All right. Huh? What? Oh. All right. The babies. Oh. Well.
Farther in.
Okay. Bigger piece. All right. For real this time. Oh, it's a boy. Woo! Camera back up. We're excited to be boy parents.